Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Black Ops 2 In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be talking all about the tactical knife, and there is a myth that adding the tactical knife to any sort of pistol will either increase or decrease the recoil. We're going to be putting that to the test. Actually got some interesting results from this one, but not going to waste your time anymore. Let's talk about the stab animation or stab speed on the tactical knife. The Tac Knife is the second fastest stabbing knife in Black Ops 2. The actual stab animation, to where you reach out and stab somebody right in their heart and make them die, is the second fastest. It is extremely slightly slower than the combat knife. The combat knife knifes just a wee bit faster. It's such a tiny bit that I wanted to say that they were equal, especially on equal ground compared to the other knives, but that's not really fair to In-Depth. We're technical here, and it is technically ever so barely slower, but I do have some live testing to show you exactly how it's going to perform. The Tac Knife is in the top left, Ballistic Knife in the top right, the regular knife on a sniper rifle bottom left, and in bottom right we have the combat knife. I'm going to go ahead and play this for you, and you probably didn't even notice who stabbed what first. Even 3 times you probably don't know what's going on. We slowed it down to 4 times speed, and you can see that they're all slightly faster than the regular knife. At 8 times speed, you'll see that the Tac Knife and the combat knife kill at basically the same time, and the Ballistic Knife slightly thereafter, and then finally the regular knife comes in. Overall, I don't think any of you are going to have any problems with the knife speed on any of these weapons if I have to slow it down to 8 times normal speed to even notice the difference, but technically the Ballistic Knife and the regular knife are slower than the combat knife and the tactical knife when it comes to stabbing. And if you want to get technical about it, the Tac Knife stabs approximately twice as fast as the regular knife or Ballistic Knife, but again, I don't see that as being terribly important. One thing the Tac Knife is king of the jungle in is the lunge time. The time it takes for you to lunge to your opponent to cover that little distance and then stab them is the fastest in Black Ops 2. However, the lunge range in this game is incredibly short. Knifing is incredibly difficult, at least compared to previous Call of Duties, and you probably aren't going to notice a difference because it only has a few inches of range to cover. The most important thing for you to remember about the tactical knife, at least the only reason that I care to use it, is that if you compare this with the regular knife, it recovers from a stab much faster. It actually recovers from stabbing at the exact same speed that the combat knife and the ballistic knife does. You can knife, and if you miss, you can knife again very quickly. The regular knife on a regular gun is very slow. You can knife almost 3 times as fast with the ballistic knife, and I do have another live test of this just on a mannequin here on Nuketown. I'm going to go ahead and show you what it's like to knife with a regular knife on my sniper rifle. You can see it's fairly slow, and then if I miss, I'm probably going to get hosed down. But swapping to the Tac Knife, I can just stab this guy so incredibly fast. This is also how you get feeds with the knife. This makes that much easier. Alright, now we're hitting the myth busting section. This is something I get in my inbox quite frequently. Myth: tactical knife adds recoil. Occasionally I'll get something like tactical knife removes recoil, or tactical knife changes center speed or gun kick or something, but it's almost always that the tactical knife adds recoil. There is a reason for this that I'm going to show you, so let's skip into the testing. It's our standard wall again on Nuketown. That wall's got to be so full of holes by now. The first pistol up is the 5.7 with no attachments. This is somewhat dependent on my trigger finger, but I'm going to burn a mag and you can see the recoil pattern and how the gun looks. I'm going to swap over to the tactical knife and shoot, and you'll notice that the shake of the gun, the visual shake is different, but the recoil pattern is still more or less the same. We're going to do it again. I'm going to move over here and shoot the regular 5.7 yet again. This time I'm trying to go as fast as I possibly can. You can see my bursts are slightly irregular. A little bit faster, a little bit less tight spread there. Swap over to the Tac Knife and it does basically the same thing, but the recoil looks crappy, honestly. I don't really like that. That pattern was a little bit worse, but not significantly worse. The Tac 45 is probably the most important one to watch today. This is the base Tac 45, my normal speed, and then this is the Tac Knife 45, and you'll notice that the sights are kicking way up into the air, and I was like, this is my imagination, is something going on here? So the regular Tac 45 again, the spreads aren't the same. Even though the sights are kicking way up into the air, the spreads are still essentially the same, so I slowed it down to half speed for you, and what you'll see is that even though the bullets are going to the same place, the sights are way off on the Tac Knife 45, and the visual shake is kicking it way up into the air, and it's very annoying. The B23R does something similar, but not quite as bad. That's a normal B23R. I'm going to swap over here to the Tac Knife. Well, notice it's smaller, further away. Recoil pattern's about the same, but it feels more vertical. It somehow obscures more of your vision when it kicks upward like that. It can be problematic in a gunfight. Last but not least is the Cap 40. You see the execution there. I didn't bother testing the executioner because the range at which that's useful is, well, It's basically knifing range. That's basic regular Cap 40 base. This is the Tac Knife Cap 40. It has essentially the same pattern again. I didn't even notice a difference in the, we'll say, gun shake on the recoil in these, but the patterns were close enough. And when that comes to myth busting, what I'm going to say about the reality of these two is that the tactical knife does not change recoil in any way. The actual recoil pattern of the gun and the weapon's accuracy is not changed, but the visual shake is much more pronounced on some guns, most notably the TAC 45 that has it worse than others, and I don't like the look and feel of the B23R. The 5.7 actually tilts a little bit to the side. You get a little bit of rotation there, which is somewhat unusual for a Call of Duty game, but the pattern's not changed, but the look and feel of the gun is changed, and that can be annoying for some players, and you're going to have to make a mental note that your sights aren't necessarily synced to where your bullets are going to be going, and that can definitely bugger some players. For that reason, I don't use this on the TAC 45 because I'm very used to the recoil pattern, and it upsets me very greatly when my recoil pattern changes. At the end of this episode, you want to ask me, is this a good attachment for my weapon? And I'm going to tell you, at least personally for me, no. Knifing is very hard in Black Ops 2. I very rarely go for the knife. So rare would it be that I find the benefit in having a faster knife that I would never use. However, some of you are very knife happy, and believe me, I play online, I run into you people. Some people like the challenge of using the ballistic knife or the combat knife, but they sometimes wish they had a real gun to go along with it, like they could take maybe a knife from an older game and import parts of it into this one. If you're big into knifing, if you like stabbing people, this is great. This is just as good as the ballistic knife. You'll have a lot of fun using it. If you don't knife, then don't even bother with this. You're going to find it very annoying to try to knife people. Well guys, that's all for this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you learned something useful. If you'd like to check out my previous episode, which was a standoff map guide, you can click the box on the left. It'll open a new window. The next episode is going to be on AI targeting, more specifically on hunter-killers and how they choose and why they choose who they do. As always, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.